When Love Walked the Runway, Im Yoon-ah's Paris revelation and Lee Jun-ho's breakdown. The air in Paris was thick with anticipation, as if the city itself had paused to hold its breath. The Eiffel Tower stood proud in the distance, a silent witness to a secret the world was about to see. Fashion Week had always been the crown jewel of the industry, a sanctuary for haute couture, artistry, and whispered scandals. But no one, not even the keenest paparazzi, was prepared for the moment Im Yoon-ah stepped out of a sleek black car at the entrance of the Palais Garnier. Wearing a long white satin coat, her hair cascading in loose curls, Yoon-ah walked slowly but powerfully toward the flashing cameras. Time seemed to slow as photographers gasped, not because of her dazzling beauty, but because the coat swayed just enough to reveal what they had never expected. She was visibly pregnant. A soft curve rested beneath the silk, cradled by the gentle press of her hand. The world didn't just freeze. It shattered. The cameras snapped. Reporters screamed her name. But Yoon-ah kept walking, chin high, eyes sparkling with a mixture of defiance and fear. And somewhere in the crowd, behind the velvet rope, Lee Jun-ho, global brand ambassador for Maison Noire and the man who had disappeared from her life 6 months ago, was watching. He didn't blink. He couldn't, because the child she carried was his. 6 months earlier, Seoul, South Korea. Their last night together had been a blur of stars and unsaid words. Yoon-ah remembered the quiet tension in Jun-ho's shoulders, the way he had held her like she was both a gift and a burden. They had been secretly dating for nearly 2 years, hidden from the world, hidden even from their closest friends. They'd made a pact. No scandals, no press, no public confirmation. It was the only way to survive in the brutal spotlight of fame. But Yoon-ah had grown tired. Tired of hotel room goodbyes. Tired of whispered I love yous in elevators. Tired of living in the shadow of his rising fame. Do you still love me? She had whispered that night, her voice raw. Jun-ho had looked away. That silence said more than words ever could. She left his apartment in tears. 3 weeks later, she discovered she was pregnant. Present day. Paris, France. The media frenzy was relentless. Is this K-pop's biggest secret? Im Yoon-ah, pregnant in Paris. But who's the father? Lee Jun-ho seen crying backstage after surprise arrival. The headlines were ruthless. But Yoon-ah didn't care. She wasn't in Paris for them. She had come for the truth. That evening, she sat in the presidential suite of Hotel Plaza Athene, staring out at the Parisian skyline with her hand resting on her stomach. The baby kicked, a small flutter like butterfly wings. She smiled, thinking of the boy who once sang to her in the dark. The man who used to hold her like the world didn't exist. Jun-ho. There was a knock. Her heart leapt. She rose slowly and opened the door. Jun-ho stood there, disheveled, eyes red, jaw clenched. Can I come in? He asked, voice barely a whisper. She nodded. They sat in silence for what felt like a lifetime. Finally, Jun-ho spoke. Is it? Yes, she said, not needing him to finish. It's yours. He pressed a trembling hand over his mouth, then leaned forward, burying his face in his hands. I didn't know, he choked. Yoon-ah, why didn't you tell me? I tried, she whispered. But you were gone. You blocked everyone. I thought you made your choice. He looked up, eyes shining. I didn't block you. My agency did. After our breakup, they intercepted everything. Messages, emails, even my private accounts. They said I needed focus. That love was a distraction. I only found out today because of the pictures. Yoon-ah blinked, her lips parting slightly. So you didn't leave me because you stopped loving me? He shook his head violently. I left because I thought I had to choose between you and my career. I was wrong. So damn wrong. She exhaled shakily. Jun-ho dropped to his knees in front of her. His hands reached out, hovering just above her belly. Can I? She guided his hand. The baby kicked, and Jun-ho broke. Tears streamed down his face as he pressed his forehead gently against her bump. I'm so sorry. I missed everything. I miss the first heartbeat. The doctor's visit. The cravings. I missed you. Yoon-ah's eyes filled too. I missed you too. 3 days later. Fashion Week runway show. Maison Noir's runway was the most anticipated event of the season. And when Yoon-ah stepped onto the stage as the surprise final model, the world stopped again. Dressed in a custom off-white gown that hugged her baby bump like a gentle embrace, she walked with the poise of a queen. No shame. No fear. Jun-ho watched from the front row, tears in his eyes, his heart in his throat. Behind the scenes, the creative director whispered, "She's rewriting the definition of beauty." When Yoon-ah reached the end of the runway, she didn't pose. She looked directly at Jun-ho. The crowd turned as he stood. She extended her hand. He took it. And together, they walked back down the runway, not just as idols, but as a family. Backstage, the world burst into applause. Photographers cried. Designers clutched their hearts. And Jun-ho? He couldn't stop smiling. Later that night, as they sat under the Paris stars, Yoon-ah leaned her head on his shoulder. "Do you think the world will forgive us?" she asked. "They'll have to," he said, kissing her forehead. "Because I'm never letting you go again." 4 months later, a small hospital in Jeju Island, far from the world's cameras, witnessed the most important moment of their lives. Jun-ho held Yoon-ah's hand as she brought their daughter into the world. He cried again, this time from joy. They named her Haeun, Grace of Heaven. And she was perfect. The world had 1,000 questions. Tabloids spun a million theories. But Yoon-ah and Jun-ho never spoke to the press. Their silence became their sanctuary. Instead, they lived quietly in a seaside cottage, making pancakes in the morning and dancing in the living room at night. Love, it turned out, didn't need to be loud. It just needed to be true. 1 year later, Seoul, South Korea. Lee Jun-ho took the stage at the Golden Melon Awards. The crowd roared as he accepted the Artist of the Year award. But instead of the usual thank you speech, he cleared his throat. "I wasn't supposed to say this. But there's someone watching from home. Someone who changed my life." He looked directly into the camera. "Yoon-ah, thank you for walking back into my life. Thank you for our daughter. For loving me when I didn't deserve it. I love you. Always." The room fell silent. Then it erupted. A standing ovation. Not just for his music, but for his heart. That night, in their cozy Jeju home, Yoon-ah watched the broadcast with Haeun on her lap. She smiled through tears, kissed her daughter's forehead, and whispered, "Your daddy's a little dramatic." Haeun cooed. And in the quiet hum of that simple moment, love bloomed, not in grand gestures or viral photos, but in laughter, forgiveness, and a second chance. Paris, 2 years later. Fashion Week returned. So did Yoon-ah and Jun-ho. This time, walking hand in hand with a tiny toddler in pink sunglasses stealing everyone's attention. No longer a scandal. No longer a mystery. Just a family. And as they posed for a photo under the Eiffel Tower, the world didn't gasp or gossip. It smiled. Because in a city that worshipped beauty, they had become the definition of it.